Commander Rachel Price had exactly 4 hours to live when she opened her eyes on Tuesday morning, though she didn't know it yet. She woke at 0530, same as every day for the past 21 years, made coffee, checked her phone, saw the text message from an unknown number that had arrived at 0314 hours. I forgive you. 2 words, no context, no signature. Rachel stared at the message for 3 full minutes, coffee growing cold in her hand, trying to place it. Forgive her for what? Who sent this? Her phone rang. Hospital administrator's office. This early? That couldn't be good. Commander Price. Her voice was steady, professional. 21 years in Navy nursing had trained the anxiety out of her tone, even if it still lived in her chest. Commander, this is Janet from HR. I'm calling to inform you that Captain Thomas Burke passed away last night. His family has requested you be notified immediately. The room tilted. Tommy Burke, Captain Thomas Burke, her former commanding officer at Naval Hospital 29 Palms, the man who'd taught her everything she knew about combat trauma care, the man who'd saved her career 15 years ago when she'd made the worst mistake of her life. The man she'd been avoiding for 15 years because she couldn't face what she'd done. When's the funeral? Rachel's voice sounded distant to her own ears. Friday, 1100 hours, Arlington National Cemetery. His family, they specifically requested you attend. They said Captain Burke had been trying to reach you for months. Guilt stabbed through Rachel's chest. She'd blocked his number 6 months ago. Couldn't handle the messages anymore. The requests to talk, to finally discuss what happened in 29 Palms. I'll be there, Rachel said. After she hung up, she looked at the text again. I forgive you. It had to be from Tommy, sent just hours before he died. A final message, a final attempt to give her the absolution she'd never been able to give herself. Rachel sat at her kitchen table and did something she hadn't done in 15 years. She opened the locked drawer where she kept the file, the one marked classified 29 Palms incident. She'd taken it when she left that base, stolen it, technically, though no one had ever come looking. Inside were medical records, incident reports, and photographs she'd tried 1,000 times to forget. And at the center of it all, Private First Class Miguel Santos, 20 years old, dead 15 years. Because of her. The heat in the Mojave Desert was the kind that made you stupid, made you sloppy, made you make mistakes you couldn't take back. Rachel was a lieutenant then, head nurse at the small base hospital. It was a training facility, mostly routine care, sports injuries, dehydration, the occasional broken bone from combat exercises gone wrong. Nothing prepared her for what walked through those doors on a Tuesday afternoon in July. Private Santos, dragged in by 2 of his unit members. Heatstroke, they said. Collapsed during a training exercise. Non-responsive temperature, 106.3 degrees. Rachel's team moved fast. Ice baths, 4 fluids, cooling blankets, standard protocol for severe heatstroke. Santos was young, fit, no underlying conditions. He should recover, but he didn't. His temperature kept climbing, 107, 108. His organs started failing, kidneys shutting down, liver enzymes skyrocketing, brain swelling. Captain Tommy Burke, the attending physician, pulled Rachel aside 2 hours in. Something's wrong, he said. This isn't just heatstroke. His talk screen came back. There's something in his system, something that's making him burn from the inside out. What kind of something? I don't know, but we need to figure it out fast, or this kid's going to die. Rachel went back through Santos's chart. Medical history clean, no drug use, no allergies, nothing that explained why his body was destroying itself. Then one of Santos's unit members, Private Chun, pulled her aside. Ma'am, there's something you should know about the training exercise. Chen was shaking, terrified. We weren't supposed to say anything. The drill sergeant said if anyone talked, we'd all be charged with dereliction of duty. Chen, if you know something that can save Santos's life, they gave us pills before the desert march. Said it was a new hydration supplement the Pentagon was testing. Said it would help us perform better in extreme heat. Everyone took them, but Santos. He took extra. He wanted to impress the sergeant. He took 3 pills instead of 1. Rachel's blood ran cold. What pills? What were they called? I don't know. They came in unmarked bottles, white tablets. The sergeant said they were experimental but approved for testing on volunteers. Were you volunteers? Chun's silence was answer enough. Rachel went straight to Captain Burke. told him everything. Burke's face went from concern to furious in seconds. They're using experimental drugs on Marines without proper disclosure, without medical supervision. He grabbed his phone. I'm calling the base commander. This is wait. Rachel grabbed his arm. Chen said if anyone talks, they'll all be charged. These kids could lose everything. And if we don't talk, Santos dies. Maybe others too. Give me 12 hours, Rachel said. Let me figure out what they gave him. Let me try to counter it. If we go public now, they'll shut us down, classify everything, and Santos won't get the care he needs anyway. Burke stared at her for a long moment. 12 hours, then I'm making calls whether you like it or not. Rachel spent those 12 hours trying to identify the compound in Santos's system, trying every treatment protocol she could think of, consulting with toxicologists off base, without revealing why she was asking. But she was 12 hours too late. Santos died at 04 for 7 hours. Multi-organ failure, brain death, body temperature that had climbed to 109 degrees before his heart finally gave out the official cause of death. Heatstroke due to inadequate hydration during training exercise. No mention of experimental drugs. No mention of unauthorized testing. No mention of anything that might embarrass the Pentagon or end careers. Because Captain Burke had made a choice. When Rachel went to report what Chen had told her, Burke stopped her. I already made the calls, he said. Base Commander, Pentagon. Judge Advocate General's office. You know what they told me? That program doesn't exist. Those pills don't exist. And if we pursue this, we'll be charged with making false allegations against a training program that's above our clearance level. They're covering it up. They're protecting national security. Or so they claim. Burke looked 10 years older than he had yesterday. Rachel, I fought as hard as I could, but we're not going to win this. And if we push, they'll destroy us, and Santos's family will never get benefits because they'll reclassify his death as misconduct. So we just let them get away with murder. We let Santos's family keep their son's honor and his death benefits. We let Chen and the others finish their service without courts, and we live with the guilt. Burke met her eyes. Unless you have a better option. Rachel didn't. The cover-up was official, complete. Santos's parents received a folded flag and condolences for their son who'd died serving his country. The Marines who'd survived the experimental drug testing finished their tours and scattered to the winds. And Rachel Price carried the weight of knowing she'd let a young man die because she'd waited 12 hours too long to do the right thing. Rachel closed the file and checked her watch. 715 hours. She needed to leave for work. But first, she needed to know. She called the hospital in 29 Palms, asked for records on Private Miguel Santos, deceased, 2010. I'm sorry, ma'am, but those records are classified. I can't release them without proper authorization. I was his nurse. I was there when he died. Then you know I still can't release them without authorization from the Department of Defense. Rachel hung up. 15 years, and they were still hiding it. Her phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. The truth is in the box. I'm sorry I waited so long. What box? What truth? A third text. My attorney will contact you after the funeral. Everything I should have said is there. Everything I should have done, Tommy. It had to be Tommy. Even in death. He was trying to make things right. Rachel looked at her calendar. The funeral was Friday. 3 days away. She didn't know that in 4 hours, everything would change. That the truth Tommy had promised would come too late. That the forgiveness he'd offered would turn to ash. She didn't know that. The box Tommy mentioned would contain evidence that destroyed everything she thought she knew about Miguel's death. She didn't know that by the time she opened that box, she'd have already made the final, irreversible mistake. Rachel Price went to work. She did her rounds. She saved 3 lives that morning: a heart attack patient, a car accident victim, a Marine with appendicitis. At 0937 hours, she received a call from an attorney in Virginia, Captain Burke's estate. They needed to schedule a meeting for after the funeral. There was a sealed envelope, instructions that Burke had left specifically for her. He said it was urgent, the attorney said. He said if anything happened to him before he could talk to you, you needed to see this immediately. He said it would change everything. What's in it? I don't know. He sealed it himself, but he seemed desperate. He said you'd spent 15 years believing something that wasn't true. He said he needed to fix it before it was too late. Before it was too late. Rachel's hands were shaking. Can you send it now? Overnight. His instructions were clear. in person only. After the funeral, he wanted you to have time to process before you read it. At 11:37 hours, Rachel was in the middle of triaging a training accident when her phone rang again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Commander Price, a woman's voice, older, heavy with grief. This is Maria Santos, Miguel Santos's mother. Rachel's world stopped. I don't know if you remember me. I remember. How could she forget? The woman whose son she'd failed to save. Captain Burke gave me your number before he died. He said there was something you needed to know. Something about Miguel's death. He said he was going to tell you at the funeral, but he wanted me to call you first. To prepare you, Mrs. Santos. My son didn't die from heatstroke, did he? Maria's voice was steady, but Rachel could hear 15 years of grief underneath. Burke told me everything. About the pills, about the cover-up, about how you tried to save Miguel, about how they silenced you both. Mrs. Santos, I'm so sorry, don't apologize. Burke told me you blamed yourself, that you've carried the guilt for 15 years. But Commander, there's something else. Something Burke only found out 6 months ago. Something that changes everything. Rachel's heart hammered.
What?
Miguel didn't take those pills because he wanted to impress anyone. He took them because static. The call cut out. Rachel tried calling back. Straight to voicemail. She tried again, and again. At 13:42 hours, Rachel received an email from Tommy Burke's attorney. Subject: urgent regarding PFC Miguel Santos West. The email was brief. Commander Price, Captain Burke insisted that if anything happened to him before the funeral, this information must reach you immediately. I'm attaching his final letter. He recorded it as both video and written testimony. He said your life might depend on reading this before Friday. I don't know what this is about. But Burke seemed terrified that something might prevent you from learning the truth. Please watch the video immediately. Robert Chen, attorney. Rachel clicked the video attachment. Tommy Burke's face filled the screen. He looked sick, dying. This had been recorded maybe days before his death. Rachel, his voice was weak but urgent. If you're watching this, I'm dead, and that means I ran out of time to tell you in person. Rachel, I've spent 15 years thinking we failed Miguel Santos, thinking we let him die because we didn't fight hard enough. But 6 months ago, I found out something that changes everything. Burke coughed, struggled to continue. Miguel Santos didn't die from those pills. The autopsy was falsified. I got my hands on the real report through a source at the Pentagon. Rachel Santos died from the video cutout. Corrupted file. Rachel's hands shook as she tried to reload it. Nothing. She opened the written testimony attachment. Page after page of medical evidence. Autopsy reports. Witness statements. Pentagon memos. And at the center of it all, the truth about why Miguel Santos had really died. Rachel read for 2 hours straight. Read until her world collapsed. Read until she understood exactly what Tommy Burke had been trying to tell her. And then, at 15:37 hours, she made a decision. The documents Burke had left weren't just evidence, they were a confession. Rachel read them 3 times, each pass making the horror sink deeper. The experimental pills hadn't killed Miguel Santos. They'd been placebos. Sugar pills designed to test psychological performance enhancement, the placebo effect in extreme conditions. Completely harmless, but Miguel Santos had died from something else entirely. He'd died from an allergic reaction to the 4-contrast dye. Rachel had ordered for his CT scan, a reaction that occurred in less than 0.01% of patients, a reaction so rare that most medical professionals would never see it in their entire careers. But the reaction wasn't random. According to Burke's documents, a full medical history that had been classified and hidden from Rachel 15 years ago. Miguel Santos had a documented severe allergy to iodine-based compounds. It was in his military medical file. It should have been flagged immediately, but it wasn't, because someone had removed it. The documents showed email chains, memos, orders from Pentagon officials. When the experimental pill program came under scrutiny after Santos's collapse, they'd needed a scapegoat. They'd needed the story to be about unauthorized drug testing, not about a catastrophic breakdown in medical record-keeping. So, they'd done something worse than cover up the drug testing. They'd fabricated it entirely. The pills were real. The testing was real, but it was above board, properly authorized, and completely harmless. The real scandal was that Miguel Santos's allergy information had been scrubbed from his accessible medical records by a clerical error at boot camp, an error that had traveled with him through his entire military career, an error that meant Rachel, Tommy Burke, and every other medical professional who treated him had no way to know that ordering a standard contrast CT scan would kill him. The Pentagon couldn't let that truth come out, couldn't admit that their medical record system had failed so catastrophically that a Marine with a documented lethal allergy had been walking around for 2 years with no red flags in his chart, so they'd built a different story. They'd made the drug testing program seem real and sinister. They'd let Rachel and Tommy believe they'd failed to act fast enough. They'd let everyone blame experimental pills that had never hurt anyone, and Miguel Santos's mother had been told her son died from heat stroke and dehydration, never knowing that a simple contrast, dye ordered by a nurse, following standard protocol, had stopped his heart. Burke's final letter was handwritten, attached to the documents. Rachel, I found this out 6 months ago, through a whistleblower at the Pentagon. I've spent that time trying to verify it, trying to find proof that would stand up to scrutiny. This is everything I have. For 15 years, we've blamed ourselves. I've watched you destroy yourself with guilt over a decision that was right. You didn't wait too long. You didn't fail Santos. You ordered a standard diagnostic test that any competent medical professional would have ordered. You couldn't have known. The Pentagon let us believe we failed because it was easier than admitting their system killed him. I tried to reach you, tried to tell you, but you wouldn't take my calls. And now I'm dying, and I'm terrified you'll carry this guilt to your grave without knowing the truth. Rachel, you need to go public with this, not for us. For every other service member whose medical records might have the same fatal errors, for every other family that deserves to know the real reason their child died. I know what I'm asking. I know it will end your career, but it's the right thing to do. It's what we should have done 15 years ago. I'm sorry I waited so long. I'm sorry I let them silence us. I'm sorry I let you suffer. I forgive you for believing their lies. Please forgive me for not fighting harder. To me, Rachel sat in her office, surrounded by evidence of a cover-up that had destroyed her for 15 years, and she made her decision. She would go public. She would release everything. She would make sure the Pentagon couldn't hide this anymore. She called a journalist she knew, left a voicemail. I have a story about Pentagon medical record failures that led to a Marine's death. Meet me Friday after the funeral. I'll have everything. She called a lawyer, arranged a meeting for Saturday. I'm blowing the whistle on a 15-year cover-up. I need legal protection. She started writing her statement. The full truth, every detail. At 1843 hours, her phone rang. Maria Santos calling back. Commander Price, I'm so sorry. My phone died. I need to tell you what Captain Burke told me. Mrs. Santos, I know. Burke left documents. I know about the allergy. I know about the cover-up. I know my contrast dye order killed Miguel, not the pills. Silence on the other end. Then, Commander, that's not what Burke told me. Rachel's blood ran cold. What Burke said, the documents he was sending you would show that Miguel died from the contrast dye. But he said there was more. He said he was still investigating. He said the allergy in Miguel's file wasn't natural. What does that mean? He said someone added it after Miguel died to make it look like a medical record error when it was something else entirely. The room spun. Burke told me he was close to finding out who. He said he thought Miguel was murdered, that someone gave him the pills knowing he'd get sick, knowing you'd order a CT scan, knowing the dye would kill him. He said it was the perfect crime because it looked like bad luck and bureaucratic failure. But why? Why would anyone murder Miguel? That's what Burke was trying to find out. He said Miguel had seen something, knew something, from his time at 29 Palms, something about the training program, something that made him dangerous to someone powerful. Maria's voice broke. Commander, Burke died 2 days after he told me this. The hospital said it was his cancer. But Burke told me if anything happened to him before he finished investigating, I should tell you to be careful. He said whoever killed Miguel might not want the truth coming out. Rachel's hands were shaking. Mrs. Santos, I'm going public with everything Friday. After the funeral. No. Maria's voice was sharp. Commander, Burke said you'd want to do that. He said to tell you, not until you know everything, because if you go public with an incomplete story, they'll discredit you, destroy the real evidence. And Miguel's death will be covered up forever. Then what do I do? Burke said, there's someone at the funeral, someone who was there at 29 Palms. someone who knows the whole truth. He said you need to find them first, get the complete story, then go public with everything at once, so they can't stop you. Who knows? Burke wouldn't tell me over the phone. He said it wasn't safe. He said you'd know them when you saw them. He said they'd been waiting 15 years for someone to ask the right questions. After Maria hung up, Rachel sat in her office as the sun set, holding documents that told half a story. She'd spent 15 years blaming herself for Miguel's death, then she'd spent 2 hours learning it wasn't her fault. And now she was learning that maybe it was murder, that maybe Tommy Burke had been killed to keep him from finding out the truth, that maybe she was next. Rachel looked at her computer, at the statement she'd been writing, at the journalist's voicemail, the lawyer's appointment. Everything in her wanted to go public now, wanted to end this, wanted justice for Miguel and redemption for herself. But Maria was right. If this was murder, if there was someone powerful enough to kill a Marine and a Navy captain to keep a secret, then going public with half the story would just make her the next target. She needed the whole truth first. She needed to wait until Friday, find whoever Burke had meant, get the complete story, then burn it all down. Rachel deleted her statement, called the journalist back. Never mind, wrong information. Called the lawyer. Cancel Saturday. I'll reschedule when I have more. She went home, locked the doors, set her alarm 4:0430. The funeral was in 3 days. She'd find Burke's mystery witness. She'd get the truth. She'd make sure Miguel Santos' real story came out. She just had to survive until Friday. Rachel arrived at the cemetery at 10:30 hours. The funeral started at 1100. She walked through the rows of white headstones, scanning faces, looking for someone from 29 Palms, someone who'd been there 15 years ago, someone who knew. The ceremony was small, mostly Navy Medical Corps, a few family members, and in the back, standing alone, watching Rachel with an expression she couldn't read, Private Chen, the same Chen who'd told her about the pills 15 years ago, who'd been terrified of speaking up, who'd survived the training program and disappeared. After the ceremony, as people scattered, Chen approached her. Commander Price, we need to talk. You're Burke's source. I'm the only one left who knows the whole story. Chen looked around nervously, but not here. Too many people watching. Meet me tonight. 2100 hours. I'll text you the address. Just tell me now. Tell me what really happened to Miguel. Not here, Chen repeated. Commander Burke died because he got too close to the truth. If they see us talking, who's they? Chen's face went white. He was looking past Rachel, at someone approaching. A man in a suit, mid-50s, familiar somehow. But Rachel couldn't place him. Commander Price. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. I'm Deputy Director Carlson, Pentagon Medical Oversight. I heard you've been asking questions about the Santos case. Rachel's heart hammered, just trying to understand what happened. Captain Burke left you some documents, I understand. Documents with classified information. I don't know what you're talking about. Commander, let's not play games. Those documents contain sensitive information about Pentagon operations. Releasing them would be a federal crime. I'm here to collect them and to ensure you understand the consequences of disclosure. Burke gave them to me legally. Through his attorney. Burke was dying, delusional. Those documents are falsified, products of a conspiracy theory he became obsessed with in his final months. Carlson stepped closer. Commander, think carefully. You have a distinguished career, 21 years of service, retirement in your future. Don't throw it away on the paranoid fantasies of a dying man. Chen was backing away slowly. Rachel wanted to stop him, to make him stay and tell her everything, but he was gone. I haven't decided what to do with the documents yet, Rachel said carefully. Then let me help you decide. Carlson pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. It was Maria Santos, getting into a car. Yesterday, Mrs. Santos is a widow with no other family. It would be tragic if something happened to her. An accident, a home invasion. These things happen to people who make trouble. The threat was clear. You're saying if I go public, I'm saying there's no story here. Commander, Miguel Santos died from a medical error. Tragic but unavoidable. Captain Burke became obsessed with conspiracy theories before he died. And you're a respected officer who wouldn't want to endanger innocent people by spreading misinformation. Carlson put his phone away. The documents Burke gave you, burn them. Forget this. Live your life, or Mrs. Santos becomes another tragedy. He walked away, leaving Rachel standing alone among the graves. She looked at her phone. No text from Chen. He wasn't going to contact her. He'd seen Carlson and run. She was alone, with evidence she couldn't use, with truth she couldn't tell, with a threat against an innocent woman's life if she tried. Rachel walked to her car, drove home in silence. She thought about Miguel Santos, about Tommy Burke, about 15 years of guilt that had been manufactured to hide something worse. She thought about Maria Santos, about the threat, about what would happen if she went public, and she made her decision. Rachel woke at 0600, made coffee, opened her laptop, wrote an email to Maria Santos. "I'm sorry, I can't help you. Burke's documents were fake. Miguel died from heatstroke. I was wrong to believe otherwise. Please don't contact me again." Wrote an email to Burke's attorney. "Please destroy all documents. Captain Burke left for me. I don't want them." Then Rachel Price went to her backyard, built a fire in her fire pit, and burned every page of Burke's evidence. Watched 15 years of truth turn to ash. She told herself. She was protecting Maria. Told herself one widow's safety was worth more than her own redemption. Told herself Burke would understand. But that night, lying awake in bed, she wondered if she'd just done exactly what the Pentagon had wanted her to do 15 years ago. She wondered if Chen had been her last chance at the whole truth. She wondered if Miguel Santos would ever get justice. And she absolutely knew that she'd made the wrong choice. Rachel was doing rounds when the news broke. Former Navy Private Jason Chen had been found dead in his apartment. Apparent suicide. A note left behind confessing to fabricating stories about Pentagon drug testing programs, apologizing for wasting Captain Burke's time with conspiracy theories. The note was Chen's handwriting. The police ruled it suicide, but Rachel knew. She knew Chen hadn't killed himself, knew that note was coerced or forged, knew that the only person left who could tell the complete truth was now dead, and she knew it was her fault, because she'd chosen safety over justice, because she'd burned the evidence, because she'd been so focused on protecting Maria Santos that she'd left Chen exposed and alone. She called Maria, got a disconnect message, called Burke's attorney, was told Maria Santos had moved, no forwarding address. Maria was in witness protection, or dead. Rachel would never know. She went home that night and opened the locked drawer, the one with the classified file from 15 years ago, except it wasn't there. Her house hadn't been broken into. Nothing else was missing. Just that one file. Someone had taken it while she was at work. Professionals, no trace. Every shred of evidence was gone. Burke's documents, burned. Her old file, stolen. Chen, dead. Maria, disappeared. And Rachel Price, who'd spent 15 years carrying guilt for a death that wasn't her fault, now carried guilt for something that absolutely was her fault. She'd had the truth. She'd had the evidence. She'd had the chance to expose it all, and she'd burned it, because she'd been scared, because she'd been threatened, because she'd chosen the comfortable lie over the dangerous truth. Miguel Santos would never get justice. Tommy Burke had died trying to give her redemption, and she'd thrown it away. Chen had waited 15 years to tell the truth, and she'd left him alone to die. Commander Rachel Price retired from the Navy with full honors, 21 years of distinguished service, a ceremony, a plaque, congratulations from people who didn't know what she'd done. She got a civilian job at a hospital in Maryland, tried to start over, tried to forget, but late at night, she'd think about Burke's video, the part that had been corrupted, the truth he'd been trying to tell her that she'd never hear now. She'd think about Chun's final moments, whether he'd known she'd failed him. She'd think about Maria Santos, whether she was safe or silenced, and she'd think about Miguel Santos, 20 years old, dead for 15 years, murdered, maybe, to hide something someone thought was worth killing for, a truth Rachel had held in her hands and burned, because she was afraid. The irony was crushing. She'd spent 15 years destroying herself with guilt over a death that wasn't her fault. And then, when given a chance to make it right, she'd chosen cowardice. Burke had forgiven her for believing their lies, but she'd never forgive herself for burning the truth.